Okay, we have
All right.
started recording.
All right. Well, I thought our collaborative experience, while off to a bumpy start, proved to be rather successful in the end. I feel like you and I were able to approach the topic with like a divide and conquer format. We invited criticism and kind of support from one another while still giving one another room to attack our tasks in our own way, which I thought was very kind of open to our strengths. Like I said before, I thought you were a phenom when it came to the organization and divvying up the work evenly. Really appreciate that you took initiative in creating the group workspace and, being such a great catalyst for this video element as well.
Thank you.
So,
As I agree, as far as collaboration, it was rocky at the beginning. But I do feel that you and I were in constant communication throughout the project. I think the fact that we shared ideas, resources, and constant like feedback, like, oh, I like this slide, and we were and we just kind of let ourselves like just do our own thing. I really love that. I micromanaging is not my thing. Um, but the fact that we were also able to work in one PowerPoint and not have multiple PowerPoints, I like our organization,
mhm.
how organized we were and how we were able to do everything on time despite everything that was thrown in the mix. I mean, I think that was great that we were able to pick that up. So I did really enjoy working with you and how easygoing you were. So
Cheers.
I do appreciate that.
Cheers. We obviously had the same issues. I think the venue for the project itself presented some kind of built-in difficulties, the anonymity of everybody in the class. I recognize a couple names from discussion groups and other classes, but that's really kind of the extent of it. But, varied schedules. For instance, you and I are in different time zones. And then kind of the different approach, to sound a little political, but our different approach to like the experience of college. These courses, I think, created some initial problems as well with,
Mhm.
our other group not being as offensive, on the offense like you and I were, kind of caused some issues. But, that kind of stuff might not necessarily be avoidable in the future.
Yeah.
But again, like we did overall, I think pick up those pieces, like you said, and rolled with the punches really, really well.
Yep, I agree. I agree. Team Bill and Team Carolina.
Yes, Slade. And I think this kind of stuff. So I'm not an educator yet. So I had kind of, a fun time thinking about how this sort of collaboration can really kind of work in real life, and I see a lot of value in kind of disseminating, this kind of information about what's going on on a biological level with the students in a school and kind of sharing that understanding of what their experience is and using it as as leverage towards how instruction is doled out and planned. I think that can be really really valuable tool, and I'm excited. While this was a really cool experience, I'm excited to be in kind of collaboration in closer knit quarters with, being able to work on things for a longer time and really digging into some details of the subject matter. In your teaching kind of environment, is collaboration a large portion of your team?
Absolutely. It's major, major, major. So I am teaching, but not teaching. So New York has different pathways, and I'm on a pathway B, which
Mhm.
means I don't have my master's yet, but I'm able to teach alongside a co-teacher.
Gotcha.
So basically what I do is I offer ENL support
Mhm.
in earth science and in ELA.
Oh, very cool.
So so we do newcomers or and emerging students is what I work with.
Mhm.
So I am constantly collaborating with the teacher and making sure the work is inclusive. We're working on visuals. We're
Mhm.
working on, movement breaks, translations. We do like English is in red, Spanish is in blue,
Wow.
and things like that. So I love the way that your slides were how would this look like in a classroom, and mine were this is how this is how it looks in an ELL classroom, and this is
Thank you.
how we would apply it in an ELL classroom. So it was like two different perspectives, and it just came together so cohesively, and I love that. Um, because it was just two views, how it
Sure.
looked like and how it looks like. And I was able to use yours and what you did and implement it and do strategies on how it works and how it looks like in an L classroom. So doing this really kind of helped put it together. And it's funny because I was like, oh, look, I do that. Oh, wait, look, I do that too. Oh, look, I did. So it was kind of more reassuring, like, hey, I'm doing a good job. We're doing this,
Yeah.
you know?
I experienced some of that kind of reinforcement as well, looking at your notes and the details. We addressed some of the same issues, some of the same developmental changes and the growth kind of ranges. That was very reassuring to see see
Yes,
that you and I were
definitely.
hitting
Because sometimes you don't
same
know,
target.
and
Yeah.
you don't have admin in your face all the time. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like, is this right? Oh
Yeah.
man, I got it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely reassuring to see that all across the board, like it seems like we're all on the kind of like, well, you and I seem like we're on the same page and we're moving forward really well. Um, the the adolescent brain is so complicated when it comes to learning and grasping things. And a lot of people think, I told you one time and you get it. And we learning through here that it's not like that. It's a lot of repetition. It's a
Yeah.
lot of not just saying it because, it's not developed yet. It's also showing with the visuals and the colors and activities and the movement breaks, because then they remember the lesson as a fun lesson, as an interactive
Mm.
lesson.
Sure.
And those are always good. And it's always fun also for us because we don't want to sound like Charlie Brown. We don't want to be the womp 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 womp,
Yeah.
and the clear eyes, dry eyes
Yeah. Yeah,
teacher.
absolutely.
So that's great. When it comes to language, when and like technology, which was one of the things that we do. I have like a Google Translate, like a Microsoft Google Translate. So even though I speak Spanish, my co-teacher does not. So when she speaks, it translates it on the BenQ board,
Amazing.
which is a great visual.
Of course.
So when students are doing everything when it comes to earth science using Google Earth,
Mm.
so they can actually see the difference between the Amazon and the Sahara, and see the colors and see how it doesn't look like they're so far. The only thing that separates them is an ocean, but it's different. It's different, and they can see that visually, and that's so important when it comes to science.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the fact that you touched on that and how that part of the brain develops also tied in so well with how technology supports that.
Cheers. Maybe let's dive into just kind of our presentation a little bit. What do you say? So we
Let's
can
go.
kind of get an overview of that.
Yeah.
So we open up with just the anatomy and the layout of the brain. I split it up into two groups, the outer brain and the inner brain. The outer brain and the inner kind of take care of, I don't want to say different functions, but they're focused a little bit differently. The outer brain has a lot to do more with kind of sensory and incoming messages, and the inner brain deals more with like hormonal regulation, to put it really pedestrianly. The outer brain, I split up into four groups. We've got the temporal lobe, which primarily functions with auditory, language, long-term memory, and emotions. Then the frontal lobe, obviously in the front, executive actions. I thought this was a really nice term because this deals with speech, personality, decision-making skills, and again, memory. A lot of these areas of the brain do multiple things and kind of dip into one another, which is pretty interesting. I wonder, to look into it more if the kind of proximity of them has much to do with their shared sort of regulatory duties. The parietal lobe primarily has to do with like spatial awareness, how the body fits into the context. I thought this was a really interesting kind of swoop back to our last project, when we were talking about how the body grows kind of at different rates, different areas, the limbs and the extremities cause that sort of awkward pubescent area where we're kind of clumsy and clunking around. So the parietal lobe kind of catches up to the body in that sense. I thought that was a cool kind of give and take, push and pull relationship. Then the occipital lobe in the back, a lot of vision processing, motion, and some other things as well. That kind of takes care of our exterior. And then there are many more parts in the inner brain. There's a nice graphic pointing all those out. And then in the notes, all of the functions. But again, those deal a lot more with emotions and hormones and speaking to the outer areas of the brain as well. So that's kind of how we open up, and then I added some kind of how those changes in those areas can be kind of paid attention to inform our instructional designs. And really, things like you had mentioned earlier about repetition, scaffolding, structure and routine. These not only give people some students some comfort in their environment and let them focus on the instruction itself rather than keeping pace with changing locations, but lets them kind of push themselves and through this scaffolding to maybe do things outside of their comfort zone. Emotional engaging content has been scientifically shown to improve retention. Collaborative learning experiences like this, I'm sure, also help things stick. And then I was surprised to see like clearly teaching self-regulatory skills. This was a topic I saw come up over and over again. And I think that kind of goes back to the modeling that we all learn about earlier on and how to kind of act as a living example of how we handle our emotions and our time management as well, and our stressors and things like that. So keeping that in mind to make a connection with students, I think can kind of help them as their brains are figuring out how they feel. And I think after that, you kind of launch into how technology,
Yeah.
like you were saying, with the Google Maps and everything.
Yes. So, our second section of the resource is designed to support adolescent brain development through intentional technology use. And like you mentioned before, with self-regulation strategies and inclusive instructional practices. Um, and I based it particularly on middle school and multilingual learners. Um, some of the key points with it's like interactive visuals, which is like Google Maps or Google Earth, and engaged learning. A lot of the times we'll also them random latitude and longitude lines for them to look up and tell us what they see. What are they observing? You know, kind of keeping that the brain in motion and you know letting us know where it's at. What does it look like? Is it dry? And using these scientific vocabulary terms, it's purposeful. It gives them attention, motivation, and it helps them with the working memory.
Mm,
And they also have to provide immediate feedback. What are they seeing and everything like that. Um, Also, using technology effectively is all about structure. This helps also keep a balance between screen time
mm,
with the discussion and reflection. We do a lot of turn and talk. Um, and
mm,
and this also helps with the decision making and problem solving. They collaborate with one another and make sure they're also stay on task. You know, middle schoolers and technology,
mm,
we gotta make sure that it's purposeful and it's divided. It's not a
mm,
classroom where it's technology throughout the whole, you know, in my school, 42 minutes of class. We have to
mm,
make sure that it's purposeful, intentional, and it's broken up into sections.
mm,
Um, because like we said, the brains are still development and they can lose focus and lose track.
mm,
So we always got to keep that in mind. Understanding the brain and how it changes in adolescence is also a major part. During adolescence, the brain is still developing, and it we know we can receive different emotional responses, and some may be stronger than others because they're still learning how to regulate that. So in classroom strategies, that's another thing that we talked about is how do we can apply this in a classroom and the strategies. So using short brain mini lessons or visuals, I'm real big on The Magic School Bus.
Sure.
And I love those little 15-minute clips of the Magic School Bus to show weather. For an example, right now we're doing intro to weather, and they have one called Weather Chicka Chicka Boom with Ralph. And it's great. It's a great visual. You would think that middle schoolers don't like cartoons, but they do. Um,
Absolutely.
all the while taking notes on weather and
Mm.
precipitation and high pressure and low pressure. It's just great. And it encourages reflection, for them to kind of question, like, wait, what is this? What is that? What is that? Oh, look at this. And it's very engaging. And sometimes you have the kids singing the song, the Magic School Bus song. So I feel that's one great strategy that I apply in the classroom. Also supporting emotional regulation in the classroom, calming strategies, when it comes to them. We have like listening to music. Sometimes we'll have like we'll do small classroom notes, and I will allow maybe like some soft music, or I'll play soft music, if I'm not going to have their headphones, because they do have that whole away for the day, headphones and all that stuff. So we do that, we have another game, boom, clap, grab, where there's a ball in the middle. I'll ask a question and I'll do boom, clap, and then I'll say grab. They have to try to get the ball so they can answer the question. Um,
Nice.
so these are all these, the moving breaks, calming strategies. If you see someone a little frustrated, you take them for a walk. I have the advantage where I co-teach, so I'm able to
Mm.
do that. Like I can pull one to the side and be like, hey, you want to go for a walk with me?
Stretch it out. Yeah.
Yeah, stretch it out. Sometimes I need a break. Sometimes,
Mm.
the kid maybe looks a little frustrated, but I'm more frustrated. But yeah, let's take a walk together. It just works. Being relatable, this reduces stress and helps students learn faster, and without all that pressure that they have to be right all the time, making yourself relatable. Um, in a middle school, we don't really have, calm down corners, but we do have break spaces. Like I said,
Mm.
taking the walk, going to the main office, seeing their favorite security guard. All of this works and then helps with their emotional regulation.
Mm.
And with promoting decision-making skills and problem solving. Some instructional strategies are like choice boards assignments. I do have a project that's due towards the end of the year, which is kind of like a tic-tac-toe thing,
Mm.
where we give them 10, like on a tic-tac-toe board, and they have to pick three. But the three have to be either diagonal, up and down, horizontal, vertical, whatever, and they get to pick three. They have choices.
Mm.
Um, I love doing that, setting goals when it comes to activities, and just making them have like reflect, like, can I do this? What time do I have for this? When can I set
Mm.
aside for this? Giving them that responsibility. And that just the learning benefit from that is it strengthens executive functioning, and it encourages responsibility and independence. And that's what they need to strive for when they're going to high school.
Sure.
And
Very
that
smart.
was what I had.
Very, very smart. I really I having been able to go over the information you provided, and knowing your English as a new language perspective, kind of I think the overarching story about this whole project is, for me, my takeaway is that there's a bunch of tumult and change going on inside of these young bodies, and it's difficult. And anything we can do to facilitate an environment that's going to help them shore out all of this chaos that's going inside, and all of these changes that they're going through, and all of this attention that is being pulled in so many different directions, anything we can do to provide some clarity and calm and some structure to help them through that time is kind of that's something that we need to be paying attention to. And if we can utilize our instruction as a conduit to help them through all of that change and tumult, I mean, everybody's winning in that kind of a scenario. So I really appreciate you bringing this very unique perspective, to someone who has yet to be in a classroom. I'm just gathering so much, wonderful ammunition to bring to my own mindset when I'm looking at these fresh kids, sitting in the classroom. So I really appreciate that.
I'm usually the one learning, so that means a lot to me. Thank you.
Well, I think we hit everything for the professor's list.
Yep.
Um, Is there anything else you can think of?
Um, yeah, yeah, I have here, well, the reflection, I guess, but like we said, we were great. The only thing I would kind of change a little bit is maybe if the Halo Forum for Communication would have opened sooner.
Mm,
I feel like if instead of, if we were able to communicate, not do the work, but if we were able to communicate maybe a few days before, I think we would have been less stressed in our situation, knowing that the our other two classmates weren't going to participate. I would have given us more time. Even though we did great, I was freaking out a little bit. So
yeah,
maybe
maybe a
being
little more.
able to communicate a little bit sooner
Mm,
and being able to maybe email you directly. I mean, through our message board, we can only email our professors. So that was a little tough.
mm.
Um, but just that. Other than that, collaborating was super cool. I learned a lot. And yeah.
Excellent. Well, Carolina, thank you so much for again all your hard work. I hope professor's happy with ours.
I
Um,
hope so too.
if we have another collaborative group, I'm gonna request that you and I get put together, okay?
Seriously.
All right. Let me know if anything goes awry with the video or anything, or if you
Yes.
need help submitting anything. Let me
Yeah,
know how I can
I'll
help.
go ahead and I'll submit the video on my end. He said only one person